Their goal is to take the island of Midway Atoll, which is really two islands. There's Eastern Island and Sand Island, and they're positioned right next to each other. Eastern Island has an airstrip on it, and they want that airstrip. They want to be able to conduct air raids from that airstrip to the Hawaiian Islands. Now, they come up with a very complicated plan, as we talked about in the last episode. The Japanese have this approach to naval warfare where they make very complicated plans, and they like to split their forces up. But essentially, you're looking at like a three-pronged attack, kind of, where you have a diversionary force that's going to go up towards the Aleutian Islands near Alaska to kind of divert our forces, or their goal was to divert our forces away from Midway. Then they would have a carrier task force strike the island, and then the main invasion force is sailing behind them. And once that force got there, they would obviously make landfall, invade the island, take control of it. Well, what the Japanese did not know is the Americans had a trick up their sleeve. They had an ace in the hole.
Practicing for a little bit.
So on the Hawaiian Islands, there is a code breaking organization called HIPO, right? And it's in this facility, this bunker, deep within one of the islands. All the members there are all the members of this organization are sequestered. They stay there and they work nonstop to break the Japanese operational codes. Now, remember, we said beginning with the Battle of Coral Sea that they hadn't cracked the code, but they had enough of it broken where they could get little pieces.
Yeah, okay? The operational portion. At
this point, they're getting a little better at it, and they're starting to really get a lot more of a vivid picture of what's going on. And they're able to decipher that there is going to be a major attack coming. They just can't figure out exactly where. And part of what's a problem with this is, you're talking about a code system that has 50,000 numerical possibilities, right? I'm sorry, 50,000 5-digit numerical possibilities that they have to decipher. I saw a lecture online where the guy said it's like trying to figure out the world's most complicated Rubik's Cube, right? Yeah. Like, it's just insanely difficult.
Probably like on a chalkboard too, with boxes,
right. So
they all out.
They've been working diligently at this, but they have the location. They know it's going to be the location of the attack. The code for the Japanese are using is AF, and they cannot figure out where exactly AF is. So they come up with this scheme at HIPO that Midway Island is going to send out a not coded message saying that they're having problems with their water purification system on the island.
Okay.
And see what the Japanese do with it, right? Almost like a game of telephone.
Yeah.
Like, let's see how the message gets picked up. So they send this message out, and they sit back and wait. And eventually, the Japanese send through their coded message that AF is having water problems. So they know now it's Midway. We're for sure it's Midway. Now, that's not the end of the difficulty.
Interesting.
Because they're not the only code-breaking facility that the U.S. is employing. There's also a sister facility in Washington, D.C., and all the information that they come up with pretty much goes against everything that the Hawaiian HIPO organization is coming up with. They're always countering each other from different spectrums. One says it's going to be here, the other one says it's going to be here. Well, Admiral Chester Nimitz, thank God he made the right call, but he puts his faith in the guys in Hawaii at HIPO.
Yeah.
And he decides that he's going to take two carrier task forces. That's Task Force 17, which this is the Yorktown, which, if you remember, the Yorktown was severely damaged at the Battle of Coral Sea, is sent back to Pearl Harbor. And when it gets there, the mechanic crews are saying it's going to take at least a month to get this thing seaworthy again. And Nimitz says, I need it in 3 days.
Oh, that's a big difference.
Right? So get to work.
Overtime.
And lo and behold, these guys do it. I don't know how they do it, but they get that thing freaking seaworthy in 3 days' time.
724.
There's a picture online, and I highly recommend everybody go and look, of the hole that is in the flight deck. And it goes down like 4 stories. The fact that they were able to get that thing repaired where aircraft could take off and land on it is just beyond me. I don't know how they managed that, but they do. So now you have Task Force 17, which has the Yorktown, and then Task Force 16, which has 2 carriers, the Enterprise and the Hornet. And Task Force 17 is commanded by, well, he's going to command the entire operation, but the task force itself is commanded by Admiral Fletcher, who was the commanding admiral at the Battle of the Coral Sea, if you remember.
Yeah.
Admiral Bull Halsey is who is in charge of Task Force 16 with the Enterprise and the Hornet.
Mm-hmm.
But Admiral Halsey has some kind of skin rash or some kind of condition come up where he's severely ill.
Really?
And Nimitz, realizes that he's not going to be up for the big fight, so he makes the last minute call to bench Halsey, and he puts Admiral Spruance in command of Task Force 16, with overall command of the operation going to Admiral Fletcher, the commander of Task Force 17.
Yeah.
Well, those 2 carrier task forces are going to sail northwest out of the Hawaiian Islands, and they're going to place themselves northeast of Midway because the Japanese are coming from the west. So the idea is that because you have the landing strip on Midway Island, reconnaissance aircraft can take off from there. They have a range of like 700 and something miles. It's ridiculous how far these aircraft can go. But they will be able to see the Japanese fleet before the Japanese fleet can see the American fleet, because the American fleet is further back and northeast of Midway Island, right?
That's cool.
So it's like they have this extra arm element that, obviously the Japanese know that Midway Island is there. That's going to be no surprise. That's what they're coming to hit. But, the two American task forces are going to be far enough out of range that no Japanese reconnaissance aircraft will be able to see that they're there.
That's interesting. So because of the use of these code breakers, they're able to determine that the Northern Fleet up the Aleutian Islands is they're not going to send any ships or anything up there.
They know that's a ploy.
They know
that's a ploy.
The main force is coming this way.
That they got bigger problems, and they really do have bigger problems coming from Midway, because there's going to be 4, not 2 this time, but 4 battle aircraft carriers, Japanese battle aircraft carriers heading for Midway Island.
Yeah.
So it's, the numbers are stacked in the Japanese favor.
Right.
But the Americans have a clearer view of the battlefield. And if you know what your enemy's doing and you can move first and you can keep them on their heels and make them reactionary to whatever you want to have happen on the battlefield, you have the momentum, right? The ball is in your court.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this clip from America Fog of War, catch the rest of the episode here.